So it is Bible fairy tale time with the Christmas story of the birth of Jesus. So once upon a time, there was a man called Joseph, whose fiancée Mary was about to give birth to the Son of God. So Joseph decided to make her travel mile upon uncomfortable and dangerous mile on a donkey to Bethlehem, because a man only has so much patience when his fiancée is about to have another man's baby, even if that other man is a god, and particularly if that god has previously been able to make a man out of a bit of dust. So why the hell that god needed to use his fiancée's uterus this time around was beyond Joseph. Now, when they arrived in Bethlehem, there was no room at the inn because Joseph had forgotten to book ahead. So they had to stay in a stable with all of the farmyard animals, with Mary muttering that her previous boyfriend, who was a god, by the way, would not have forgotten to book ahead, particularly given how busy it gets at Christmas, and particularly given that this was the very first Christmas. With Joseph responding with, yeah, well, if her ex-boyfriend was so great, then why the hell wasn't he here for the birth of his child? Where was he? And Mary's like, he's everywhere. And Joseph's like, yeah, everywhere but here. At which point Mary retreated into a deafening silence that spoke volumes about the fact that Joseph was not a god, while Joseph decided to make a cradle to try to distract himself from his clearly failing relationship, which was only going to get worse once the baby was born, particularly given that he'd been told that once you have a baby, you don't have sex for a very long time, which, since he didn't even get any sex beforehand, seemed particularly unfair. Then, suddenly, in the middle of Joseph making the cradle, Mary went into labour. But since God hadn't thought to provide Mary with any health care, she had to give birth in the stable, lying on straw that the animals had undoubtedly used to defecate on. Now, once Jesus was born, Mary wrapped him in some cloth and placed him in the manger, because Joseph couldn't even finish making a cradle. Suddenly, 3 shepherds and 3 wise men popped their heads around the stable door and asked if they could come in and worship Jesus. And Mary, who had literally just given birth in animal feces, was like, "Are you kidding? No, I don't want a group of strange men coming in and staring at my baby." And the wise men were like, but we bring gifts. And Mary was like, yeah, unless those gifts are some clean water, antiseptic, and a trained midwife, you can all just bugger off. But all of the men came in anyway, because this is a Bible story, which means there was no way that the men were going to listen to what the woman wanted. And the wise men gave their gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And Joseph said, "Thank you. What's myrrh?" But finally, after everyone had departed, Mary was left alone, lying on poop-ridden straw, still bloody and unable to wash, surrounded by farting animals and with a screaming baby, proving that God, the original deadbeat dad, is very happy to do the deed, but nowhere to be seen when it's time to take responsibility for his actions.
Just the son of a carpenter, and I don't want anything from ya, except for your eternal love.